Teachers, here are a few tips for you on some of the extra tools that you have on your site that the students don't have. First of all, one of the things you'll notice on your screen is that there's content that the students may not see in class. As I look through the screen here, let's look at a couple of them. First of all, we notice that this particular entry right here, Anchor Academy, and some notes for Anchor Academy has been set so only Anchor Academy may see that material. Notice the grayed out note here that says Anchor Academy only. We'll talk more in a little bit about how we can change that. As you scroll through the screen, you'll see the content that the students have. And then you're going to come to a teacher section before their preference. It gives you an opportunity to click on the assignment list where you can see the assignments in the class, their due dates as they're set in the system. Unfortunately, we can't customize those due dates for every different school, so they're set up for a typical school on a semester schedule. There's no scoring difference in whether you're late or early on any of those things. They're simply there as some sort of a mile marker. There's also a place here where you can list the forums, where you can see all the different forum groups at once, and where you can go directly to the quiz and test results so you can grade them. As you look through the screen and you come to content, if there's a forum, such as this news forum, that you haven't read yet, something that's been posted on it, it should highlight it for you in blue. Otherwise, the rest of the content that's in here is the same as students. Occasionally there will be a teacher note. It's a suggestion that I have for you. Kids don't read these notes. These are just for you. Notice down here it says teacher grouping. So only the teachers that are in this class as labeled as a teacher will be able to see these things. Now, some of the special tools that you have. Number one, under the calendar, you're able to set things on the calendar just for your group. Let's do that. As I click on the word group, it's going to show only the things that are or hide the things that are specifically for your group. You can hide things that are for the course so that you're not seeing things unless they're for this particular, for the website. To add content, you simply click on the calendar date. You can see all of the months that are on here, and you would click on the button that says New Event. You would then have the choice of adding a user event, which is just for you. Your kids can do this also. They have the same stuff on their calendar. You can do a group event. Make sure that under the list of groups you've got your own group. Or it can be a course event where everybody sees that. I prefer not to have you do that. I tend to do those. But a group event for yourself, you're welcome to do. You then give it a name, put any kind of description you want in here, set the due date, whether it has a length of time or not to it. All the standard things that you find in calendars are available for you here. We're going to exit out of this because I don't want to actually make an entry. So that's the calendar. If you click on the people list where it shows the participants, you can see a list of kids in your class. Occasionally this people list is closing, and that's why I put it on the regular site down here. You can write yourself a blog, but the blogs are only visible by you. If you have any messages, they'll show up down here. And then we have the grade form right here. So let's take a second to begin where you're normally going to begin, which is in grading assignments, specific assignments as they're coming in. So I'm going back to the main part of the site, getting away from the blogs, and coming down to where it says assignment list. I click on assignment list, and the list pops up. For this particular teacher, no assignments have been turned in yet. Over here it says no assignments have been turned in. So you'll see the number show up for your group as time goes along. You'll see the due dates that are here and so on. Now if this was what the students would see, they would actually see their grades show up on here. So let's click on one of these, even though there are no assignments to be graded. And here are the students that show up in class for this particular teacher. Notice that there are some that have already been graded, and there's no actual dates in here. What I usually do is, when I have a lot of students, is you can click on the last modified and set this column so that it shows the times from the first turned in to the last turned in. And what it does is it puts all the assignments that have been turned in at the top of the list. Second thing you'll see on here, so you'll be able to see all of the kids that have turned them in and when they've turned them in and so on. Now, some teachers like to grade right here on the list because all they want to do is put in a grade score and a short little comment. Others want a little more detail, so let's look at two different ways of doing it. If you click on the grade button next to a student, it will pop up another window. In that window, you have all the regular editing tools that you would have in a word processor. You have the ability to click on this picture right here and add an image to what you're saying to the students. You can have it send them a notification email right away that you're grading them. You want to uncheck that if your kids aren't really using real email, otherwise it'll mess up my server with a lot of bad responses, and so on. Their files will show up down here that they've turned in. Of course, there's none submitted for this one, so we don't see any. So you would simply click on the files that were here, and you would be able to open up and view the assignments. I personally do my work on my iPad. If you have an iPad, it's an incredible tool for this site, because when you click on the pictures, they open right up. On a Macintosh, the pictures tend to just download to your desktop, and then you have to open them up in some other viewing program like Preview or Photoshop or something. And I find that really annoying. On some PCs, they'll immediately open up in the Preview software, and others they may do like it does on the Mac. So if you got an iPad, it's a great way of grading. So your comments would go in this square right here, and the menu down here has a pop-down score for your grade. I've pre-put in the scores. My grading system runs from points from 1 to 5. 0 is what obviously it's worth if they didn't turn in an assignment. I usually don't put in a score for a student until the due dates pass. Then if they haven't turned it in, I'll actually enter a 0 in here for the students, because otherwise it won't be averaged out in the calculation for their score. It ignores things that have no score in them when it's adding up their grades. So putting in a 0 in is a way of telling the grading software the student didn't do the assignment. You can change it later on. So we'll leave it at no grade. So this is one way of grading, and many of my teachers like this system. The other way is to come down here to the bottom of your list or your screen. You can show how many students will show up on your list if you wish to change it from the default, which I think is 15. Or you can also click on this button down here that says Allow Quick Grading. When you click on that, the screen will change. Let's go back to make that pop up. Okay, not change. Oh, save preferences. There we go. I didn't. Sometimes I confuse myself. Now you notice the screen's changed. Now we have the pull down place to add the grade here and a place for comments. Sometimes I've already looked at the work, or if you want to put scores in for something where a student's handed it to you in class and it's not here online, you can just quickly use this as your grade book by going down your class list and adding your grades that way. Let's go back to the assignment list. If you wish to view the assignment itself, you can go over to this part of the list and click on it here, and it will open up the actual assignment so you can review what was said. By the way, you can help me out on these things. If you come to one of these things and you find an error in spelling or something that I've added or whatever, you're perfectly welcome to fix it. All you would do is come up to where it says Update this assignment. It will then open up the window that actually makes the assignment. This is where I set the due dates, but please don't change these for your school because everybody sees the same dates. But then one of the things that it does is it allows me to to separate the groups, to hide it from a group. So suppose an assignment's on there that you don't wish to have for your students. Then you can come down here let's see. No, never mind. Under the way you set up for students, it won't let you do that. So I'll have to do that one for you. So anyway, this is a place where you can come and make some minor changes to the requirements for a project, should you find a mistake in it. Now, what about grade reports? A number of ways you can look at grades. You can click on the students in the class, look at your class list, click on a student, come up here to activity reports, and you have a lot of things you can see here. Under activity reports, it lets you see all the content of the site, whether a student has actually read that, the date in which they read that, whether they've read it more than one time. Now, not all the content shows up with a date. Some of them don't seem to record in the logs very well, but most everything does. Some of the things that don't show up very well are the videos, but the rest of and I usually can count on kids to watch the videos. It's the content that I have a hard time getting them to do. The complete report is another version of it. It looks down for each page and it says whether they've read it. And on this one, it actually lets you see the material. So if they've turned in an assignment, which this particular student hasn't, you would actually be able to see the comments and the grade that you gave that student. These are logs for today. The student hadn't been here today, so you won't see anything. Or you can click on all logs, which will show all of the things that the students have done, when they've come in, when they've left, the time of day, and all of the different pages that they saw. And this one shows everything, even the videos. So if they've come and they've said, no, I've read something, I know what I'm doing, you look at it, you should see that page on here on the screen at some point. Okay, so what about grades? We'll go back here to the students again. Click on a student. To just review their progress, again, activity reports. Click over here on the grade button, and that will show you the grade report for this student. Here you'll see in a column form all of the assignments that have been given to them. Now, this year we're adding some material. It doesn't add any points. But when they've completed this an assignment, then right down below it will be some places where you can record whether they've met the standards for that project that are advanced or adequate or far below, or what, various categories for how they've met that. And this will be showing up here. We'll talk more about that later. So this shows their grade report for them. Down at the bottom, it adds up all their points. Now it adds it up for the total for the whole class. So their score is not going to look really great until they get towards the end of the class. It doesn't do a grade report. A third of the way through the class, they're going to have 33% for a grade. By the time they get to the end, that should work its way out to 100. Okay, some other grade information. Down under the administration window is a button that says grades. As we click on that, a much more complex window opens up, and you may want to play with this. This has little pluses and minuses on windows that allow you to close that portion of it up, so you're only looking at, in this case, it's looking at assessments for quizzes and so on. If you want to actually edit this content, in other words, add a score in it, all you do is come up here to the top where it says Turn Editing On. Click on that, and now for each one of these students that are down here, I can actually enter a score into the box manually without having to go find the assignment or grade it in a list or any of the other things. This is just like a regular grade sheet. Again, the little minuses hide content for it, so you can open up just the parts that you want to see, so your screen isn't quite so wide. And here's where we're actually able to change the